A checkpoint in northern Tehran. Military pickup trucks with heavy weapons mounted on the back, and standing next to them, teenagers. Some of them look like they should be in middle school. One resident described it to AFP journalists this week. He said, "You pass one checkpoint, and just 100 meters ahead, there are several private cars with teenagers holding Uzis, stopping vehicles. Untrained teenagers with Kalashnikovs shouting orders at people, stand here, stand there, and regularly firing warning shots into the air. These are not soldiers. They are children. The youngest are 12 years old." Iran's Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, officially lowered their minimum recruitment age to 12 this week. Not 15, not 14, 12. They called the program For Iran. They announced it on state television. The official said, and I am quoting directly, "Given that the age of those coming forward has dropped, we lowered the minimum age to 12. Children from poor families, being given a few bags of food as payment, standing at checkpoints in a city under bombardment, holding machine guns. I have been in this business for 34 years. I have watched governments fight wars. I have watched them win wars, and I have watched them lose wars. There is a moment in every failing military campaign that I have come to recognize, a specific sequence of decisions that tells you, before any official admits it, before any news headline announces it, that something fundamental has broken. Recruiting 12-year-olds is one of those decisions, not because of what it says about Iran's values, but because of what it says about Iran's math. My name is General Marcus Webb. I want to walk you through exactly what this recruitment drive tells us about the state of Iran's military right now. What has actually happened to the Basij, the force that is putting these children on checkpoints. What it means for how this war ends, and why the most dangerous moment of this conflict may not be when Iran is strong. It may be right now, when Iran is desperate. To understand what recruiting 12-year-olds means, you need to understand what the Basij was before this war started. The Basij is Iran's internal security force, a paramilitary volunteer militia under IRGC command. At its peak, estimated around 2020, it had between 500,000 and 1 million active members. These are the people who controlled Iran's streets, who put down the 2019 protests, who crushed the 2022 Women Life Freedom Uprising, who killed protesters in November 2019 at a rate of roughly 1,500 people in 2 weeks. This was a force that seemed, for years, unshakable, loyal to the regime, feared by the population, deeply embedded in every neighborhood, every mosque, every street corner. That force no longer exists in the form it did 30 days ago. For 30 days, the United States and Israel have been targeting the Basij systematically. Not just their weapons, not just their command centers, their personnel. Individual checkpoints have been hit by drone strikes. Individual commanders have been eliminated. Individual gatherings have been targeted. Israel's strategy has been explicit. Destroy the internal security force that keeps the regime in power. Because if the Basij collapses, the regime loses its ability to suppress a population that, polling consistently shows, does not support this war. The results are visible in the recruitment drive. The Israel Hayom report this week, citing IRGC sources, said the Basij is suffering, quote, heavy casualties, collapsing morale, and a growing shortage of adult volunteers. Many Basij members have been forced to sleep in streets and mosques, not at bases, not at headquarters, in the street, because they are too afraid to go home, because home means being tracked, being targeted, being next. And here is the detail that tells you everything about the morale situation inside the Basij right now. Videos circulating on Iranian social media this week show something extraordinary. The siege members, armed, uniformed men whose entire purpose is intimidation, fleeing in panic. Not from a missile strike, not from a drone, from a sound effect. Civilians in Tehran have been playing drone sounds through their mobile phones near checkpoints, and the Basij members are running. That is the state of Iran's internal security force on day 30 of this war. I said at the beginning of this video that I have seen this before. The last time Iran recruited 12-year-olds for a war was 1980. The Iran-Iraq War had just started. Saddam Hussein's army was advancing into Iranian territory. The new revolutionary government was desperate for soldiers. They sent children to the front, not just to checkpoints, to minefields. Children were given plastic keys, told they were keys to paradise, and sent walking across minefields to clear them for adult soldiers. Thousands of Iranian children died doing this. Those children were called the Basij. That is the origin of the organization that is now, 46 years later, running out of adults willing to serve. Every government that has ever recruited 12-year-olds for a war has done so for the same reason, because the adults who were supposed to fight have either been killed, have run away, or have refused to show up. One of those three things is happening in Iran right now, possibly all three simultaneously. So here is the question I want to address directly. The question that every analyst is dancing around. The question that the Iran is recruiting 12-year-olds story raises, but nobody is answering. Is Iran about to collapse? Or is Iran about to do something so desperate, so dangerous, that it makes everything we have seen in the last 30 days look like a warm-up? Because in my experience, those are the only two outcomes when a military reaches this point. Collapse, or last stand. And right now I genuinely do not know which one is coming. I want to be honest with you about that, but I can tell you what the indicators are for each, and I can tell you which one I am currently watching more carefully. The collapse scenario looks like this. The Basij continues to disintegrate. Checkpoints staffed by 12-year-olds are not a show of strength. They are an admission that the adults have left the building. When the internal security apparatus fails, the regime loses its ability to suppress dissent. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the man Israel killed on day 1, has not been seen in public since assuming power. He did not deliver the Nowruz New Year address that every Iranian supreme leader has delivered for 40 years. Iranian officials claim he is alive. They have not shown him alive. The regime that survives by projecting invincibility has been projecting the opposite. Its commanders are being killed. Its bases are being hit. Its soldiers are sleeping in the street. In the collapse scenario, what happens next is a combination of a military deal. Iran accepts something close to the 15 points the U.S. transmitted through Pakistan, and a domestic political crisis that the regime manages to contain, at least temporarily, through the combination of information blackout and physical force. This is the scenario that ends the war. That brings oil prices down. That lets the 3,500 Marines who just arrived in the Middle East go home without a ground operation. The deals being discussed in Islamabad right now, the four-way talks between Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt, are the infrastructure of this scenario. Someone is building the exit ramp. The question is whether Iran gets on it. Now I want to tell you about the scenario that is keeping American military planners awake right now. Desperate regimes do not always negotiate. Sometimes they escalate. Iran's parliament speaker Ghalibaf, who has emerged as one of the most senior surviving civilian figures in the country, said this week that Iranian forces are waiting for a U.S. ground invasion. He said Iran would never accept humiliation. Iran just threatened to attack American and Israeli university campuses in the Gulf. Texas A&M Qatar, Northwestern Qatar, NYU Abu Dhabi. They named them. They gave a deadline, March 30th. Iran is currently recruiting children and simultaneously threatening American university campuses. That is not the behavior of a government that is preparing to negotiate. That is the behavior of a government that has decided if it goes down, it will make as much noise as possible on the way. The last stand scenario looks like this. Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz completely, not the current selective blockade, but total closure, including the mine-laying operation they have been threatening. Oil goes to $150, $180. The global economy enters recession. The political pressure on the United States becomes unbearable. Trump then faces a choice he has been trying to avoid: full ground operation to seize Kharg Island and reopen the Strait by force, which he told the Financial Times this week he is still considering, or accept a deal that looks like a defeat. The desperate regime that recruited 12-year-olds is the same regime that is sitting on enough mines to close the world's most important waterway. That combination is what makes this moment the most dangerous point of the entire conflict. I told you I would tell you which scenario I am currently watching more carefully. Here it is. Mojtaba Khamenei, the new supreme leader of Iran, has not appeared in public in 3 weeks. His regime is putting 12-year-olds on checkpoints and threatening to attack American universities. And the man who is supposed to be in charge of all of it is nowhere to be seen. In 34 years of intelligence work, I have learned that the supreme leader's visibility is the single most reliable indicator of a regime's internal confidence. Khamenei appeared publicly throughout the Iran-Iraq war, even in its darkest periods. His father, Ali Khamenei, appeared publicly through every crisis the Islamic Republic faced for 32 years. The supreme leader of Iran does not hide. The supreme leader of Iran leads from the front. Mojtaba Khamenei has been invisible. If he appears this week, if he addresses the nation, if he is seen at a prayer service, if he delivers any public statement with verified video, that is a signal the regime believes it can survive, that the collapse scenario is more likely, that a deal is possible. If he does not appear, if the silence continues, that tells you something else entirely. It tells you that either he is incapacitated, or the regime has decided he should not be seen until the war has a different trajectory. Either answer points toward the last stand scenario. Watch Mojtaba Khamenei, not the missile counts, not the diplomatic statements. Him. His presence or absence in the next 7 days will tell you more about how this war ends than any news bulletin you will read. I want to bring this back to something personal, because everything I have just described, the 12-year-olds, the Basij Collapse, the 2 scenarios, Khamenei's absence, is not abstract. It is the difference between gas prices going to $4 a gallon or $6 a gallon in the next 30 days. Collapse scenario. A deal gets done, the Strait reopens, oil drops back toward $80. Your gas prices start falling by summer. The OECD walks back its 4.2% inflation forecast. Last stand scenario. Full Hormuz closure, oil at $150 or higher. A U.S. ground operation that could last months. Your gas bill keeps climbing. The recession that the OECD is currently projecting as a possibility becomes a certainty. The 12-year-olds on the checkpoints are not just a humanitarian story. They are a leading indicator of which future you are about to live in. While all of this is happening on the Iranian side, something significant arrived in the Middle East this week. The USS Tripoli, an amphibious assault ship carrying 3,500 sailors and Marines from the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit. This is not a carrier. This is not an air campaign asset. An amphibious assault ship with a Marine Expeditionary Unit is the U.S. military's tool for one specific type of operation: ship-to-shore assault. Seizing territory from the water, establishing a beachhead, taking and holding an objective that requires ground forces to get there by sea. There is one objective in this conflict that requires exactly that capability: Kharg Island. The island that handles 90% of Iran's oil exports. The island Trump told the Financial Times this week he is still considering taking. The island that, if seized, would give the United States physical control of the economic weapon Iran has been wielding for 30 days. The USS Tripoli did not arrive in the Middle East by accident. It arrived because someone decided it needed to be there, before it was needed, with options open. The Basij is putting 12-year-olds on checkpoints. The supreme leader is invisible. And the United States just parked 3,500 Marines within operational range of Iran's most critical economic asset. Iran's military command, whatever is left of it after 30 days of targeted strikes, is doing the same math you are doing right now. The regime recruited 12-year-olds because the adults who were supposed to fight are gone or afraid. But that same regime is looking at the USS Tripoli and calculating what a Marine amphibious assault on Kharg Island means. It means the war's economic dimension, the Hormuz blockade, the oil weapon, the leverage Iran has been using to force negotiations, ends. Not through a deal, through force. That calculation is, I believe, what will determine whether Iran accepts a deal in Islamabad or escalates to the last stand. The regime that is desperate enough to arm 12-year-olds is facing a military that just deployed the asset that can take away its last remaining leverage. That is the equation this war is currently solving. A 12-year-old in Tehran is standing at a checkpoint this week with a machine gun he doesn't know how to use. He was given a bag of food. He was told he is defending his homeland against the global bully. He doesn't know what the USS Tripoli is. He doesn't know where Kharg Island is. He doesn't know that the Basij commander who recruited him is sleeping in a mosque because he's afraid to go home. What he knows is that explosions happen at night, and his country needs him, and he is 12 years old. That image, that 12-year-old, tells you something that no missile count, no diplomatic communique, no Trump Truth Social post will tell you. It tells you Iran's war is not going according to plan. What it does not tell you, what no one can tell you right now with certainty, is whether that means the war is almost over, or whether it means the most dangerous part is still ahead. Watch Mojtaba Khamenei. Watch the Strait of Hormuz. Watch what Iran does or does not do by March 30th with the university campus threat. And watch this channel. My name is General Marcus Webb. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next briefing covers what happens if the Kharg Island operation gets the green light, and whether the regime that just put 12-year-olds on checkpoints has anything left to stop it.